2022, I read more books than I ever have before. It was a lot of fun. I really enjoyed the experience of reading that many books and seeing what it's like to kind of keep that high pace. If there's one thing that is the most frustrating about being an avid reader, it's how many books I know I'll never be able to read. And so keeping that pace is really tempting to do, and something that is fulfilling in some ways and not in others. So in the interest of broadening my horizons and seeing what other types of satisfaction in reading there are, this year I'm going to be making different kinds of goals that are, for the most part, non-numerical.
Thought of something funnier than 24.
Let me hear it.
25.
I don't want my goal to just be focused around finishing books. I want it to be something more than that, something different than that. And if I do read a lot of books, awesome. But that doesn't feel like it's a meaningful enough goal in and of itself. My goal for the beginning of the year is to read outside of my typical genres. The past couple seasons, I read so much fantasy, and I love fantasy. That's why I did it. But it was so much. I think that's really important to me, is having some, I don't want to call them palate cleansers, because I think that does them a disservice, but some other books that get me to think a little bit differently before I dive back into something familiar. And that almost always helps me see different dimensions to a book that I otherwise wouldn't have. Having more breaks in genre, definitely spending some time at the beginning of the year reading other stuff, I think is going to be really important to me, enjoying the sci-fi and fantasy that I get to later on. The next goals are author related. For example, last year I really wanted to read more Ursula K. Le Guin, and so I did. I read so much more Ursula Le Guin. I think I read 4 or 5 of her books, and I loved them, and I want to continue with that. I want to read even more of her work. It whet my palate. It got me excited. I want to read her whole catalog. Have I gushed about how much I love Ursula K. Le Guin's work? I've got The Dispossessed on my shelf, but I'm putting it off so I can read some other stuff first. I'm currently working on a video relating to some of her work. You'll see that hopefully pretty soon, but I want to make sure it's really good. I'd love to be known for knowing a lot about her work. Another author I discovered last year and seriously want to read more of this year is Becky Chambers. I read the 2 books she has in the Monk and Robot series. I really want to check out her Wayfarers series, which starts with A Long Way to a Small Angry Planet. She also has another book called To Be Taught If Fortunate, which seems right up my alley. It's that type of sci-fi that really gets me going. Something about the way that she presents thematic material in a plot relevant way and a character relevant way just meshes with my brain so well. I really want to check out OCTAVIA Butler's work. I oftentimes hear her mentioned in the same breath as Ursula K. Le Guin. I've heard that she's one of the greats, and I'm so surprised that I haven't checked her out. That's definitely a goal for this year. This next one's kind of a numerical goal. I want to read the first 4 books in the Wheel of Time series. That might be a little ambitious because there's other fantasy that I want to read in addition to that. I still have to finish Lord of the Rings, but Wheel of Time is one that I've always wanted to tackle, and sort of breaking it into that 4-book chunk feels pretty manageable. Depending on how much I like them, I think that'll determine how fast I go through them and whether I'll actually be able to do 4. But long story short, I just want to start that series and get the ball rolling, because that's one that I want to have had read. I want to have had.
Look, your
Sam's
brain.
Where? I don't see it. Is it behind that walnut on a stick?
And I also want to read Brandon Sanderson's Secret Projects in a timely fashion. Maybe not possible to do it right on time every time, like the first one that came out. I haven't read it yet. It's been a couple weeks. As the others come out, I want to be on top of them so that I can kind of, I can be part of the hype. I'm very excited for that. Pretty soon, once I read that, I'll be up to date and ready for the next one. So these are all squishy and designed to be malleable and changeable. So I'm not going to be too hard on myself if these don't work out exactly like I want them to, but they're guidelines. They're things to think about when I'm reaching for my next book. And that's the whole point. If you made it to the end of the video, I think that you'll be a great fit to be a subscriber to this channel. I'm still trying to come up with a name for all my subscribers. There's no group name yet. So if you have suggestions for that, leave them in the comments. I would love to hear what you come up with. And if I like any of them, maybe it'll stick.